Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Loosely Coupled by Bridging the Gap. My name is Karol Skrzmowski, and I'll be your host tonight. And I hope everybody has something good to drink. As per usual, I have a lovely jug of coffee just to keep me awake during the evening hours. And today we're going to be diving deep into the messiness of large corporate environments. And I work in corporate environments most of my life. That's 15 years of a career, mostly working on humongous IT environments. What a mess they usually are. They're messy. Decisions are not tracked. Even if they're made, they're not executed properly. Most of the times, half of the people don't know why we're doing certain things. So, in essence, governance over such environments and making them sustainable architecturally, well, that's quite a challenge. Well, luckily, just luckily, today we have with us Mufrit Krilic to talk about sustainability of architecture in large corporate environments. And Mufrit is a DDD coach and an advocate for technical excellence. So, without further ado, Mufrit, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. We are on.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that
So,
lovely introduction.
Mufrit, tell us a little bit, because I believe that not everybody knows you, not everybody knows who you are. You're fairly known in the DDD community in Europe, but for those who are not part of that community, because there are other people watching that are not really versed in DDD, tell us, what do you do and why do you do it?
Yeah. Well, this intersection of business domain world and technical part of the organizations we work in. You mentioned corporate environments. That's what fascinated me for many years now. And naturally, it led. I guess it was always a stroke of fate that I should read Domain-Driven Design, a book by Eric Evans, and some things like suddenly make sense. Now, from reading the book and being enlightened to actually making achieving something tangible or valuable in your daily work, that's quite a gap. My more motivation was from that point: how can we make my co-developers, architects, and technical staff more interested in business side, and the other way around. So I've been operating in this intersection between two different camps, and in the bigger the organization, the more forceful camps you get. It's us and them philosophy in many places. So and
Very siloed.
yeah, very siloed. So we tell you what to do, you do it in some way. And so the most giving and most meaningful projects I ever had was where I actually managed to glue it together, and we had this really deep collaboration between all kinds of people, all kinds of disciplines, people from product, from business, from UX, technical, operations, and but all that glued together, then we were actually able to produce something that really made impact, not only on the organization but on the broader level, even on society level in some cases. So given those few lovely stories, I immersed myself deeply into domain-driven design and worked mostly on collaborative modeling. I believe you had an episode not so long ago about domain storytelling.
Yes, precisely.
Yeah,
we did that. We did that 2 weeks ago, I believe.
Yeah, it
I would
was
have to
one of
check,
the
but
most,
I believe so.
it's one of the most recent ones, I guess.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So that
So
was
yeah, we
hmm.
we did that with Fabrizio Lazzaretti and Annegret Juncker. Woody Zool was our SME for the storytelling.
Right.
Uh, that was the previous episode. And we also did some collaborative modeling with Annegret last year as well.
Okay.
Just
Okay. Right.
like
Yeah.
like a bit of a across different modeling techniques from domain storytelling down to creating an API.
Yeah. She had a very great workshop on that one. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So we're already been doing some collaborative modeling, and just to highlight on the DDD part, because I think that's always a crucial aspect that needs highlighting. Domain-driven design is something that maybe not enforces, but heavily encourages
Yeah.
people to talk
Yeah.
and share knowledge
Yeah.
and share their dictionaries, so
Yes.
that they can unify those dictionaries and make them cohesive,
Yeah.
at least within the specific business domain that we're talking about, because of course cross domains they will differ, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Okay, so from domain driven design and seeing these large siloed corporate environments, how does that take us to sustainability of architecture?
Yeah. So of course the term sustainable means different, or can be comprehended differently by different people. So in this particular context, when you're talking about when I mention sustainable architecture, is to me is that is architecture that is possible to achieve for a given organization at a given point in time. So we are all on different maturity levels,
Right.
especially when in the scaling organizations, you start from 20 something people doing all very quick work and achieving a lot, and then you scale to 100, but maybe perhaps you scale to 500 or 1,000 in a couple of years, or depending on your success. And the what is possible to achieve on architecture level depends on where you are. So that is sustainable to me.
Mm-hmm.
So not talking about Netflixes and I'm not sure or Spotify
Right.
great stories, or look at what they are doing. Well, what can you do? What can you achieve? And that's sustainable for me. But just realizing we are here and we can move there and be in better position. Uh, and architecture is again a term that means different to different people, but that's something that I guess is not, not everybody is concerned about architecture, of course, at least not explicitly.
True.
There's a few of us, like I liked your title, integration architect. You mentioned it to me a couple of times. It was really like you to the point what you actually interested in, right? So
That's
yeah.
the narrow part of architecture that I actually do and understand through and through.
Mm,
Not that I don't understand system or software architecture. I just don't do it professionally
right.
because it's not the field that I'm supposed to work at. So
Mm,
it's because of that, it's very finely defined.
mm.
But that's just it. That's just the specialization I've been doing. Otherwise, there's plenty of different types of architects, and probably we could spend the next 2 hours just debating on the
Yeah.
naming conventions for
Yes.
architects.
Yes.
But that's
Yes.
not
Yes.
the.
Yeah. But
I don't
what,
think that
what,
would be
yeah,
worthwhile today.
but it shows your field of interest, right? When you say I'm an
Yes.
architect, however, whatever what I experienced, whenever a new person comes into the team organizations, they start with architecture. They start with some kind of holistic presentation. This is what we do in this company. This is what we do in our team. This is what the system looks like. And whoever presenting
Right.
that to the new person chooses one aspect, like, I don't know, some kind of diagram or visualization or whatever. So architecture is what meets us in a new when we start in a new job, what first thing we see is the architecture. So so it's kind of manifestation of all these decisions that have been made since the start of the company.
Yeah.
And then of course when we talk about corporate environments like bigger organizations, what I mean by it's any organizations that have some kind of legacy involved. So the system that has been or set of systems that have been developed, are in production or running, making money, and you get in as a new person and you need to deal with it. And somebody,
Right.
yeah, not everybody are comfortable with legacy. Let's rewrite it, of course. But there is some kind of,
Sometimes that's not feasible.
yeah, right, of course. But there is always some kind of legacy involved. That's what I mean with corporate. Another aspect of corporate environment is there are several teams, not just one team, but there should be some kind of multi-team environment. So that's what I mean by sustainability and corporate. So from that we can evolve the discussion. So given the legacy constraints and the organization multi-team, how do we achieve what is possible? Improvement.
So let me try to rephrase your statement. So from your perspective, the let's say the base definition of sustainable architecture is an architecture that is somewhat tailored to the capabilities and maturity of the organization, specifically, well, the whole organization. Because if we're talking about the context of domain-driven design, that would be the holistic approach. But that also ties down to the also the maturity of the IT part of it itself in a large extent.
Yeah.
And then architecture being defined as a sum of decisions that came before, when you join and learn about what's going on in the system or the ecosystem or whatever that may be. And some of the times this may come in the form of being completely implicit.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you're right. So
All right.
and that's when I say something about what is possible to achieve. I guess we are always, many of us, or maybe all of us, always trying to do the best job they could at hand given the circumstances. And perhaps you can assume that everybody involved are trying to improve things in some way. And given the number of people involved in bigger organizations, what is possible to achieve sometimes gets really tricky, because you can get pulled in all those directions. So now trying to discover what is actually possible to improve to get us from where we are to somewhere better. This is stepwise journey. That's for me kind of sustainable architecture journey. Being aware of what we can actually achieve, not just dreaming about something new that we heard about that everybody else is doing. So look at the context.
So in that sense, we could say that the thing called resume-driven development would not lead us to sustainability. What's that called? The bandwagon effect. It had a better name. It had a biased name. I need to remind myself, but basically jumping on the bandwagon because everybody else is doing it, so we have to do it as well.
Right.
Also does not lead to sustainability. So looking at the lovely memes on LinkedIn about agentic AI, with the, I don't know, you probably stumbled upon the CEO meme. Who are we? CEOs. What do we want? Agentic AI. When do we want it? Now. Why do we want it? We don't know.
Everybody else is
right. That exactly. Everybody's doing agentic AI nowadays. Half of them, more than half of them, have no idea why they're doing agentic
Yeah,
AI
yeah,
and
yeah,
why they
yeah.
even do they even have a use case. So
Yes.
in that sense, that is not leading us to sustainability of architecture.
No, no, it's actually create more tension. And I guess for everybody, um, being having experienced that, you need some kind of just observe what's happening in the organization. That you get all these different agendas, and somebody is closer to the decision maker, somebody is not, and then you get this tension between somebody decides we go into this direction, but it's not possible for everybody, and then you get this. I'm not sure what you call it. These kind of solutions or state of the organization, where everything is nothing is complete. Everything is just kind of attempt in one to a certain degree, and it is a good idea, but it's not achievable. So you do it kind of 50%, and then it stays there. Of course, you know how about the temporary solutions are the most permanent ones. You put something into production, some code, some new way of doing things, and then it gets stuck there. And if you don't have time to finish it to get your actual idea working completely, then it gets there, like is stuck there for a long time, just in half finished state. And that's, I guess, what you're talking about. This bandwagon effect can produce. Like we heard that
Yeah.
everybody's been doing microservices since 2014. We need to do microservices. Where are our microservices? Well, we have one shared database. We can put microservices on top of it. Are you happy? Yeah, that looks good. So those stories and then that's really, and it is what is both challenging and rewarding in some ways, and really trying to on one side to understand what are your constraints, and other side to
Hmm.
motivate people actually to work together. And the more people, the more difficult it is.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah. So that's what's
So
fascinating.
just for understanding the scale, what is the scale of corporate environments you work or worked at?
Mm.
Because there are different scales,
Oh,
right?
definitely.
Just looking, for example, at working when I was working for T-Mobile Poland, that
Yeah,
was the scale national wide, right?
that's
When I was working for PwC, that was still
mm,
national wide, but we had awareness of the fact that there are other PwC entities in the network,
yeah.
and we sometimes collaborated with them
Mm,
on
mm,
shared projects.
mm.
But then, if you go, for example, go internal in PwC, you suddenly become aware of the vastness of that network and the actual live dependencies of that network, because now you're looking at it from not from perspective of a consultant doing projects for clients, but being internal, and all the other employees are your clients.
Mm.
And then, if I just looking at the projects I've been doing over the years, some of the clients are literally global,
Right, right. Yeah.
right? So what is your perspective on that corporate environment, just to set the background?
Mm,
Uh,
mm.
what
Yeah.
from what kind of scale you're coming to
Mm.
here?
Well, my experiences are partially aligned with what you said. I worked with at least a couple of those corporates that covered. They were nationwide. Covered. I live in Norway, so that was for whole complete Norwegian market. However, the common the common trait of corporates is that they have some significant impact on the society level in some way or another. Maybe they cover the whole. You call it the T-Mobile Poland, that covers, like, they want to have their base stations everywhere in Poland. But whatever organization has some kind of significant impact on the society, I would call it corporate. So I worked in
Mm.
I was involved with a organization that had 30 different teams, or 30, 40 different teams, several hundred employees, but they covered complete Norwegian healthcare market on the
Hmm.
hospital side. And then I was involved with a labor union where they had several thousand employees all over the country. However, their IT department consisted only of 3 teams. So that's a
Right.
corporate as well, because you have the stakeholders are everywhere, but people who can translate that to something technical and produce some digital solutions are very few. But you're still in the corporate because you have to communicate with many people around you, and the impact on the society is significant. So there are kind of some different configurations of a corporate, but there is some level of impact that is quite broad outside the organizations. They are doing something rather important, some way or the other. So
Hmm.
yeah, and they can exist in all sorts of business domains, like in public domain, private, whatever. So I guess that's what that's what I mean when I talk about corporates. And yeah, and this, of
All
course,
right.
this communication part is what is really interesting. That how many stakeholders on many levels you need to relate to. And you mentioned something about silo, that it's very easy to try to isolate yourself because there are so many
Hmm.
people to communicate with. You need to create some boundaries around your team, maybe your department, and as long as deliberate, you're fine. But if you're just doing it to make your cognitive load go down, you need to be aware of it. Okay, we are actually missing out on some knowledge on some stakeholders around it because we do not communicate with them. So how do we deal with that complexity?
So so now the question comes to mind from that perspective of working in different, very different corporate worlds, because the level of corporate IT differs between the examples you shared.
Hmm.
How relevant would be Conway's law?
Well, yeah, the funny thing is everybody discovers that uh, also at some point, not but not at the same time. When if you're a
Yeah.
consultant and you go to another client and you start talking about Conway's law, you get somebody nods and understands, and somebody doesn't get you at all. So allowing people to arrive to that conclusion themselves, and then you present. Look at 1967. There was this guy. He's still around. He actually proved this. And then you realize it actually governs everything. It's up to you to decide to play along or to try to fight it. And that's what all these unfortunate situations occur in corporate environments, when the decision making structure is actually trying to fight the Conway's law or disregard it, and believe that as long as we can intuitively control something that is uncontrollable, we will be fine. But of course, Conway and the communication line always push back, and people adapt according to Conway's law. So they create their own communication lines, and in order to do their job. So you can organize whatever you like, but uh, people will adapt, and they adapt according to what Conway taught us. So it's up to us
Right.
to accept it, and try to organize something
So
along these lines.
given the lovely statements in Martin Fowler's article on Conway's law, that's a pretty old one. I don't believe I do have a link, but if you type in Google Martin Fowler and Conway's law, that's basically one of the first
Mm.
answers. Or just type in Conway's law, that usually is one of the first answers. The article from
Yeah,
Fowler.
totally.
Uh, uh, Martin Fowler states that there are three reactions to Conway's law.
Okay,
Uh, Ignore, which is
right.
basically because you're ignorant and you just don't know. Or you ignore because you state that this is not relevant, it doesn't happen. You can accept and align with it, or you can do something that Fowler named the reverse Conway maneuver, which is basically changing your organization to facilitate for
Mm.
the new target architecture that we're building.
Yeah.
My educated guess from the sustainability perspective would be that of course the reverse Conway maneuver is the way to go to have sustainability of architecture. From your perspective, how often does it actually happen?
I have seen quite a few places that actually try to do
Okay.
reverse Conway maneuver. Um, However, to get to a place where you can check, we actually have, by doing reverse Conway maneuver and given some time, we have actually arrived at the target architecture that we wanted, given our reorganization. That I haven't seen many places. Um, the there are some there is some critique against inverse Conway maneuver from many perspectives. Now,
Oh.
the value of a inverse Conway maneuver to me is that if you are doing reorg, you actually open up a new communication lines, or you encourage
Yes.
people to communicate differently compared to what they did before the reorg. So that is the kind of the biggest advantage of trying to do that, and not being really 100% hopeful that by doing this inverse Conway maneuver, our architecture will magically change, because the legacy system will actively fight you back. The system that have been developed for several decades will actively
Yeah.
fight you back. I mean, the shared database with a couple of terabytes of data will not care. I mean, you can organize whatever you like, but I'm here, I have this historical data, you need to do it something differently. But there is a value in trying to encourage people to communicate differently compared to what you do. And that can open up some possibilities, of course. So
Mhm.
just by putting different groups of people together or encouraging them to do so, you can get some new creative solutions that you haven't been able to see. And I guess this is what actually Mel Conway, I don't have a quote, but it was mentioned in the paper that that you actually new alternatives to system design emerges once you have new communication lines. So that is a real value of it. So you don't know where you will end up, but you will actually be able to see something new that you are not able to see, because your organization, your silos, your prioritization leads you towards one possible outcome.
Mm.
So I don't wouldn't okay. I would actually always encourage people to consider reorganization, as long as they don't do much theater about it. That's a whole different topic, when in a big organization now we're going to reorganize, everybody is kind of uncertain, what does it happen to me, or people are kind of shaky. So as long as you can drop that kind of ceremony and do it, we are doing it because we want to get something better, or you can involve people. As long as you do that, you will learn something without being prescriptive what to learn. So I know some
Yeah.
corporates that actually have done it, and they are in a better place, but I don't think they are actually ended up where they thought they would be. It's just like
Most likely no.
right. So
That's true.
mm,
I mean, from my perspective, how I used to see it, it's very rare that corporate environments actually embrace reverse Conway maneuver. They usually try to push it to the existing structure, and that differs either by completely disregarding and ignoring, or by accepting it and just dealing with it. So I recall this story about an architect designing a system, and he was like, this system is going to have 6 modules because I have 6 distinct teams in different locations that are going to be working on this. So yeah, I have no idea what those modules are going to do, but there are going to be 6 of them, right? So that's
yes,
basically the acceptance of Conway's law.
right.
And I see that pretty much all the time, in the sense that, okay, we have this team, so we're going to utilize that team without even thinking, is that team the right team for the job?
Right. You
So
don't.
we're going to keep the existing structure and just going to place new toys in the environment and hope for the best.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that results in all sorts of comical, well,
Oh, yeah.
or dramatic situations. Well,
Right.
I tend to laugh at those situations because I've seen too many of those. But for a lot of people, that's more drama than comedy, as in more serious, because comedy is also drama by
In a way, yeah.
definition. Well, by literature definition, let's not get
Yeah.
into that. Uh, but you know, it leads to these kind of lovely situations where you have a team that is supposed to be building an integration platform composed of former DBAs, and instead they build an MDM solution, because that's what they understand from a perspective of the
That's
task
what we
given,
understand. Right. Right. And
and that's
yeah. Mm. So
and
this
that's basically
alignment.
in acceptance of Conway's law,
Mm.
but it doesn't bear a sustainable effect. So,
Mm.
given all that, how do we start to make our architecture sustainable?
Mm. Well, what I've seen work is
Mm,
you need some kind of um, you need timing is relevant. Um, uh, like I'm not sure. Maybe we should talk about theory of constraints and the book The Goal, of course, and you should put that up. It is really an eye opener. I've talked about read the Blue Book of Domain-Driven Design was an eye opener for me, but reading The Goal was equally important. So the theory of constraints, and when you look in the large organization from the perspective of theory of constraints, you see everybody's being busy all the time. However, do they actually contribute to the goal of the organization? Is a whole different ball game. And now in that situation, everybody's being busy all the time. Everybody has a product backlog, a very long product backlog. There are all sorts of bugs they are fixing, and everybody's doing something all the time. Doing some architecture improvement is rather challenging. Maybe you have architect or a team of architects or somebody that is designated to work with architecture, but their voice is um, not as strong as product backlog, voice of the product backlog, all the teams. So
mm,
the timing is relevant because every now and then organization from the business side, either from push from the market or some other incentive, they realize they need to they need to change or to provide some new features, some new enhancement to the product. Now, these situations are important to recognize. Okay, we are going to do something differently in our organization this time. So there is some new kind of project and some new kind of initiative and in that case, you recognize, okay, something is going to, we are going to develop something new one way or the other. And now the responsibility of architects or anybody involved in architecture is to recognize that opportunity and try to use that and steer the organization towards something that is better, something that is sustainable. And in my what I've experienced worked is you can't. It's difficult to agree on that upfront. There are some people that are more perceptive to abstract thinking and modeling in specific, and being able to grasp what is the current model of the system, what will that be the future model of the system. But most of us like to see something concrete, something that is actually observable. You need to, okay, this is our code looks like this. Okay, now there is another example, other team has done something else. We can compare it. We can compare two repositories and see the difference. They're doing this differently. So that is, in my opinion, the way to go is to pick up a selected few teams that are more mature than the others in terms of technical and modeling excellence. You might call them high performant. I'm not sure, but it's more like they're more open to the being comfortable in situations that are not as comfortable, like working with the code bases that need some improvement, and they are able to do some improvement of their own. So I call those teams pilot teams. So that is my kind of pilot team approach. So you need a couple of those pilot teams, recognizing the opportunity that arrived. This is something from the business side, something new we are going to do. And you allow those pilot teams to they kind of lead the way. How can we improve our architecture? So you let those teams move functionality around, move boundaries, show them how we can improve our boundaries, and they will do something to a certain degree, what is achievable for them. But that will be a huge step, because that would show everybody else this is the way. This is the what is possible to do. Can we get more of the code, more of the system to that level? So this is it requires there are some maybe you can you can show this presentation I shared with you, which called this legacy modernization, if possible.
Legacy, there you go.
Yeah. So we'll start with this book. You can put it on the QR as well if you have it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a rather new.
Yes, please. Just to on the previous book, just to make sure, we were talking about The Goal by Goldratt.
Elijah Goldratt. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Yes.
So
then I had the good QR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just briefly touched upon The Goal. We can possibly get back to that one. So this book is about modernizing legacy systems, and especially in a large organization. So it's and it's a fairly new book. So in this book, we can there is this 4 steps they recommend. Once you find yourself that you want to do some kind of modernization, you recognize it. You do what they call domain rediscovery. uh, this is a
Right.
discussion on its own. The legacy systems, once they've been in production for many, many years, they can mask the true business needs. The legacy systems kind of lives on its own, and everybody's talking in terms of legacy systems. They might disregard the true business language and so on. So you need to
True.
rediscover the real business. You kind of look behind the legacy system and discover the domain. So once you rediscover domain, that will open up a step two. So once you understand how the business really works, it can open up the possibility of a target architecture. So then you can discover, okay, this is the kind of more optimal architecture than we have today. And then you need to align what you have today with that target architecture. So this is very structured and nice, and the authors present all sorts of techniques to work with that. So now what I call the pilot team approach, I tried to present here. So we are a corporate, we have some legacy system, we need to modernize in some way or the other. So the step one, what I've seen work, is you need to pick those selected few teams, precious teams that have this domain knowledge, enough domain knowledge that they are able to move across the boundaries of the existing architecture. They are comfortable with moving to other parts of the code and being able to work with it. So not everybody is there, but maybe you need to reorganize and put something. But usually you will find some teams in the organizations that are on different maturity level than the others. So you need to talk with those. Like, okay, maybe you guys, you have enough experience. You've been to some situations, have some experience. Maybe you can be a pilot team in this case. And this is the difficult part. What is modeling? What is design excellence? That is the ongoing work. How do you actually build technical excellence in your organization? That's another discussion. But some kind of some teams that are more mature than the others. So you find
basically the bigger the sprawl of the organization and the siloing, the bigger chance that you will have a very varied maturity between the teams.
Yeah.
Some of them will be very mature, others will be barely hanging on a thread, barely operating their systems.
Yeah.
And just looking at that from perspective of discovery at clients, we tend to find that there are certain teams that are very aware of what's going on in the whole ecosystem, while some cannot really even answer the basic questions about their own application. And they struggle with that, especially if that application is a legacy application. So supposedly they've been with that application for years now, but since that application hasn't been changed in years, that knowledge is just faded away somewhere, and not even documented at times. So that then bodes, unfortunately, for low maturity.
Yeah, that's a great example. Like being put in a situation to maintain a system that has been developed by somebody else. That somebody else is being promoted for many years. Is maybe CEO himself,
or entirely gone.
Yeah, or they are gone to a whole other company. So that's a great example. So and in that's very. You're not a grateful situation at all. You're kind of being designated to work with something that you need a lot of effort to understand, while somebody else has already been there, learned how to deal with it, and they have more experience. And those teams are the ones that are more susceptible to actually take some new assignments that are demanding. So you need this. This is a soft skill. I'm not sure what to call it. There is a great author, Jackie Reed, right? Has she been on the Loosely Coupled?
You have not yet. I literally think Jackie few days ago
Oh, did
to
you?
to, to schedule a stream. But Jackie is currently busy with onboarding to a completely new topic, completely new job. So she said, like, well, maybe in a while.
Yeah,
And
okay.
I'm like, fine, but we're gonna bring Jackie to the stream as well. Jackie, if you're listening, I know that you clicked attend on LinkedIn, so if you're listening, that's a call for action. Come quicker. But
I
yes,
heard.
the Communication Patterns
Mm,
by Jackie Reed.
yeah,
That's a really good book. To that extent, we even have it on the book list right here.
yeah, yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, and
So yes,
yeah. So I heard a couple of Jackie talks, and she talks about soft skills of architects among others. And I'm not sure the name of this soft skill, but you need kind of this soft skill to recognize what people are able to do or what people are comfortable with. This is way beyond just. There is the book, yeah, yeah.
that's the book.
So so just having this ability to recognize what teams are capable of, what are comfortable with, that is a kind of prerequisite to pick a pilot team. So once you did there, and this is
Right.
the hard part, of course, having enough cross-disciplinary domain knowledge. So once you've been there, once you pick up a pilot team, then you allow them what I call to move the functionality around. So in every system,
Mm-hmm.
you will have some boundaries set. Even in the big ball of mud, there are some boundaries. They are not as visible or not as easily comprehensible, but they are there. So you allow them to challenge the boundaries. And given their
Right.
level of maturity and technical excellence, they will be able to at least suggest a change in the system, a change in the boundaries. Now you need to demand this that okay, you guys can actually play around with this functionality and suggest something else, create some new stuff that we haven't been seen before. But when you see that this will affect somebody else, you need to kind of deal with it kind of cautiously because not everybody is comfortable with or maybe none of us is comfortable just being presented hey guys, this is a pull request, we moved all the stuff around, you just need to accept it. Oh, wait a minute, right? So you want them to be very um, aware of the when will this moving the stuff around will affect other teams, and then need to be kind of creative. Okay, what can we do to minimize this impact on other teams, but at the same time applying the change. So this is kind of these two
So
things that I've seen work. Pilot
so
teams.
we're talking
Yeah.
we're talking about this the having those pilot teams with that right level of maturity to be able to go and experiment
Yes.
and basically build to see what works
Yeah.
through
Okay.
experimentation, and then on top of that we need to apply impact analysis to actually be able to spot where the boundaries are and where we're impacting other teams, other systems,
Yes.
other business units
Yes. Yes. Yes.
throughout our organization.
Yeah. 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 And that's what.
So uh,
Yeah. Mm.
so just to like tie it down also a little bit to business analysis, you probably
Yeah.
know Kinefin
Yeah.
framework, right?
Yeah. Connect
So
is great.
in that sense, we're probably at the beginning of this, the organization assumes that they're in the clear context, but in the matter of fact, they're probably not, because
All right.
that's the lazy assumption of
Yeah. Yeah.
compliance with the reality that they know.
Mm.
Probably not. So by that, we're moving to the complex context very fast,
Very fast. Yeah.
right? Where we need that experimentation, where we need to discover the unknown unknowns and start
Yes.
working, seeing
Yeah.
how can we derive value from
Mm.
things that are on the horizon somewhere.
Mm. That's precisely that. Kind of you mentioned it. It was a good point that especially from the stakeholders perspective, now you call it managers or whatever decision maker you have to deal with, and there is their perspective really that we are in a clear or complicated domain on Canadian model, meaning that we can predict what is going to happen, and that is a really a dangerous place to be. Because if you believe you can predict what the next move will be for the organization, while on the other hand, given the complexity of the organization as a whole, including its system and its people and its customers, you cannot, because there are all sorts of details that you either are not aware of, you have forgotten, or things that have been added and having more impact than you believe. So if you don't accept that you are in this complex part of the Canadian model, I don't think you will actually be ever get to this frame of mind of allowing somebody to experiment, because
Right.
predictability leads you to the conclusion that I can order something for you, Carol, and you are going to deliver it to me in 4 weeks, and I know precisely what I will get. But you will learn something in those 4 weeks, and probably you will get back to me and say, I think there's something that is much better idea, or this is not possible, or something. Right? So just you're very onto something, that we need to accept that there are some unknowns here, and we don't know what they are. We want to improve, but we want somebody to actually put their fingers there and get their hands dirty and actually see, oh, this is not going to work at all. Or we can do it, but we need to do A, B, and C. So without discussing, but actually allowing somebody to do experiments in a given way. But it requires what you said. It requires that you are aware you're in a complex domain of Canadian model.
What if, and this is now a question from an actual real scenario,
Mm,
what if the company previously allowed themselves to go into the complex context? So they allowed themselves to have unknown unknowns and do experimentation.
mm.
And because that experimentation was somewhat misguided, more
Right.
based on implicitness than actual experimentation and deriving value, they don't want to go to that experimentation anytime soon
Yeah.
because they're just scared of it. And
Yeah.
I know we're now touching on the aspects of psychological safety,
Mm,
which is a completely different problem space. But
mm,
if we're supposed to bring sustainability, and often those corporate environments are environments where we have people with history with those environments, where there were probably people with a drive to modernize, there were
yes.
people with a drive to change things.
Yes.
Some of them would have succeeded, others were probably beaten into compliance not to do those things, and others were just did the experiments, but basically, for example, because of the lack of support from the organization, lack of recognition of that complex context, uh, now there is no drive at all to go into that experimentation. So
Mm,
if we would state that we cannot bring sustainability of architecture without experimentation, without looking into the unknown unknowns, how can we get there if we already have that level of resistance?
yeah. Well, I've seen a couple of examples that not to precisely what you describe, but I think I believe I understand what's your the situation you're describing is that once it happens and the results are not what you expected, or uh, the detected complexity during that experiment was much larger, and it kind of scared everybody away, especially when you're doing with stuff that have been there for a really long time. And then you can get this pushback. Okay, let's go back to do what we used to do, like in our kind of small silos, and we'll integrate with each other the way we've done it. And it can happen, and it's a kind of human side of it. The cost
Mhm.
of the experiment was high, and it can really be that high. Now, what I've seen happens is, um, it's rather kind of comical from the outside, but it's really demanding from the being there inside. You need to really empathy for the people that are it. At some point, you will get pushed from the market. Now, your market can be all sorts of stuff. You can be in the public service domain, where the word market itself is somewhat difficult to define. But there is always some kind of outside force, outside view, outside perspective that will eventually, you will get the feedback from the outside world that what you're doing is not going to cut it. You're not doing sufficient enough. You're not on the level of quality what everybody, market or the outside world expects.
R-
Then you need to
Right,
change.
this kind of adopt or die situation at the extreme, right?
Yes, at some point, unfortunately for people involved, you get this stressful situation either by competitors or by some other means that we need to change now. Now, this is not going to work anymore. And that is a push towards experimentation. Now, you get, by either you want it or not, you will be pushed back to innovation and creativity. Okay, now you don't need to hire all the expensive consultants like ourselves, but you have people in the organization probably that are waiting for the chance to innovate. So you need to recognize what is the value of the uh, people involved, and how to let them innovate and get you out of the situation to create something else. And I believe, and I've seen many places. Once you create autonomy and a safe place for experimentation, innovation actually happens. But you need to get there.
Right.
So so it's up to you. We touched upon. I'm not sure we talked. Yeah, I talked about. We touched upon feedback loops. It's up to you to listen to the feedback loops. What kind of feedback loops you're dealing with, and if you are aware of it, then you can act sooner rather than later.
Just for the sake of argument, should I switch to the other
No,
view then?
we can
For
wait. We
feedback?
can let this is
Right.
let's explore this topic.
So, just to provide you with some context of my
Mm,
thinking and example, I was once in an organization that they allowed themselves to experiment, and they wanted to go from a monolithic approach with their product towards more modular. So they
mm.
figured they're going to go event driven,
Okay.
which at the time was a very sane choice. Uh, only that, unfortunately, by bandwagon effect, they went and started doing event driven architecture using Kafka,
Okay. Yeah, yeah. They went to the infrastructure
and
first.
that's and for anybody doing event-driven architecture, starting with Kafka is basically a showstopper, because they basically added humongous complexity
Yes. Mm,
in operations and in infrastructure to a
yeah,
use case that required basically something like ActiveMQ or RabbitMQ.
Yeah, yeah,
right? So very simplistic operational messaging
yeah.
rather than partitions
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
streaming and
You jump from where you are to some level of scale that you might achieve, but you're not ready for it, and then you need to deal with. Yeah,
uh,
I understand that.
they
That's
didn't even have a use case for Kafka's and for a log broker that Kafka is. They had a use case for operational brokers. So exactly single record processing without any state
yeah.
really, other than temporary state to guarantee delivery.
Mm,
And basically they rolled back out of it. And years later, the organization was so opposed event driven architecture that any
right.
talk about using a message broker or an event
I
broker
see.
was
I
basically
see.
met instantly with no way, we're not doing event driven architecture.
You're not doing it again.
This kind of a approach.
I see that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a really that's a good story, good example, and um, I touched upon this um, culture of modeling and design and technical excellence. The word culture is so misused all the time, but this is where it kicks in, right? Okay, you did an experiment, you took a wrong turn, probably doing Kafka, but you learned something.
Right.
You learned that okay, we don't have to deal. We don't need this complexity. We need to model our events. We need to achieve some loose coupling. That's what events do, right? And I try to do. So okay, we learned something. So this is how can our culture play or support us to fuel the learnings back to organization. The decision of actually trying Kafka was the difficult one. Not doing events. Events are fine. Maybe we can do
Yeah.
it simply with some open source or what you mentioned, Rabbit or Transit, MS Transit or what I'm not sure you mentioned something. But and maybe don't have a queue at all. Maybe we just need some other even simpler method. But so just to
Yeah.
distinguish where did you took a wrong turn, but and what was actually good with the experiment. But that's a difficult one, and because the cost involved could be quite
Yeah.
in terms of time. How much time did they use, or from the perspective of this of decision makers, what did you actually? What are the tangible results? So
So I
yeah,
would put it this way that there are two aspects to that really. Uh, one is the actual cost,
yeah,
because of course they implemented something they had to roll back out of it. But the other aspect would be that there is a lack of reflection in this
yeah.
particular case. The lack of
That's one. Yes.
reflection being that they didn't differentiate the architecture
Mm.
from the technology they actually
Yes.
utilized to build it.
Yeah.
Because events and event driven architecture is something completely different than implementing it with a specific message broker. And
Yeah.
they implemented it with a wrong message broker because they didn't understand the use cases.
Yeah.
And that's the where they learn.
Mm.
But they combined the two
Mm.
as one. And now the whole thing, the whole experiment fell apart because the
Mm.
results of the experiment were actually skewed by the wrong reflection.
Mm. Yeah, that's right. And I have a similar example of kind of a opposite of it. But you mentioned this distinction between very good point about between the architecture and the technology. The pattern involved. You want to go event driven because it will align with the business better because yeah, business usually talks in terms of events. That is a great paradigm change, and it can really enhance your the model of the system, the architecture. Uh, Now you get in what technology should I use to implement events. Now I've been in a situation that we were at a point where we actually we need event driven. we need to decouple our modules by using events. And we discussed the technology part rather heavily. We never agreed on it. So we actually
Okay.
postponed the decision to go event driven for many years because we couldn't agree on the technology. So kind of the opposite, but equally unfortunate example, discussing what do we need this bus or this queue or with this infrastructure. What you need, guys, is to try to model a single event. Try to publish something somewhere on the file, whatever. Just experiment with one event, see what this event will do with the model of the system. So this maybe we are as a community rather prone to discuss technology more quickly than we should. So and maybe we don't give good advice to each other. I'm not sure.
I mean, this is very noticeable in terms of discussing technology, because technology means we're looking at problem solving.
Yeah,
And you probably are familiar with this lovely book, Domain Driven Refactoring, by
yeah.
Alessandro Cola and Alberto Acerbis. I'm
Yes,
probably butchering the name, sorry.
yeah. They were
And
presented.
i- in the I believe this is the first. No, that's this, in the second chapter.
Mm,
There is a part on problem and solution space,
yeah,
where they wrote, we tend to seek and try to find a solution as quickly as possible and leave the problem space as quickly too.
right.
We're uncomfortable staying in this area, but it is where our client needs to reside. It is
Yes,
the zone that allows us to acquire more information about the problem our client asks us to solve through the software we will develop for them, because writing software means solving business problems. And basically, if we're more prone to technology discussions, we're already in the space of solutioning,
very
not in
much.
a space of problem,
Yes.
which is a problem by itself.
Oh,
And because I believe people might be experiencing a few noises, I do have a new family member that want to join the stream. And this guy just woke up from his nap, and now he's going to be giving me kisses. So sorry for the noises, but he's just underneath my desk, and you see he's very fond of grabbing my beard right now.
I have a
4
cat
months old.
myself. Maybe I should bring my cat here so we can have.
Uh, the cat luckily escaped the room.
Yeah, you have a
So
cat as well, right?
yes, yes. So at times we have both of them sitting in the room, the cat on the windowsill, the dog underneath the desk, and they're just chilling with me when I work. But well, he decided to wake up, and now it's the time to. Oh, I need kisses and love. So
Right, right.
sorry for the noises, but he's right here.
Right there,
But
yeah.
given the learnings of that example with Kafka,
Mm,
and experiments yielding some results, I think I can switch to the next slide, which is basically what we do with those results is that they fuel the learnings of other teams.
mm.
And in terms of the example, that's basically an anti-example of how that fueled the learnings of other teams, because
Yeah,
the other teams learned not to do event
yes.
driven because they poorly adopted Kafka. But in general, then I'm guessing that when done well, it's probably going to be more beneficial. And I recall a situation where my team, my integration team, composed of 10 architects back in the day, supported by 2 dev teams from vendors. We were the first team to do actual CI/CD,
Okay.
and that was like 12 years ago or something,
Mm,
when the term CI/CD and DevOps were not really known in Poland yet.
mm,
Uh, so that was the first team to do actual CI/CD in the company, and the learnings from that and the ease that we had our deployments because of it, and managing artifacts, managing rollbacks, etc. this basically fueled the learnings to all the other teams, and because of that, we were able to introduce introduce CI/CD all over the company. So
Right. Right.
subsequently, first the major systems, then all the other smaller systems onboarded to a shared
Right.
CI/CD platform with
Mm.
individual pipelines for each of those systems. But
Mm.
basically, because they onboarded to the same platform, we had 100% visibility of all deployments and releases in the
Right.
company
Right.
because of those shared learnings that fueled the other teams to be
Yes.
able to go there and
Mm.
adapt and
Mm.
adopt the practices.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, that's the kind of that's the essential step. Otherwise, you get this distance between the knowledge of the team that done an experiment, and otherwise they're just left in the dark, to use that phrase. And
Hmm.
that can create really unfortunate situations, because the more you experiment, you learn, you see the ways to do things differently, enforced by, I guess, what you learn in the conferences. You read blogs and books, and you see all the theory, especially from the books, being able to apply. Now there are many books about event-driven architecture, but if you haven't actually tried to model some events, it's just theory. But once you get this
Right.
theory and practice to kind of align a little bit for you, you are on the next level. So if you don't go back and share that with other people and present them in a way that they are able to get them on board, then your architecture style, which is event driven, will not be perhaps possible to spread throughout the organization. You will be kind of left alone. So you need this step to go back, and this is more valuable than just going on with delivering. So now I need to go back and see where other teams are, so they can at least be get in a better position to make some decisions for themselves once they get in a position to make a new design change or something. So because
Hmm.
this is a little bit we talked the presentation of the live event. We mentioned, I guess, technical coaching was mentioned. That is a kind of at the heart of the technical coaching for me, is enabling people and teams to make the better deliberate decisions on their own, not making decisions for them, like we are going to do event driven. But what event driven is an alternative, and this is the way to do it. What do you say?
Hmm.
What do you say? So how can we improve your decision making? So that is at the heart of technical coaching, just building this modeling and technical excellence, but letting uh, uh, other teams make decisions when they are comfortable and making. So you need this feedback loop of knowledge to be active all the time, in order to have sustainable architecture in the organization. Otherwise, we'll just have a couple of places that are more better than the others, but the system as a whole will
So,
be.
so it's basically a difference between giving a man a fish and teaching him how to fish.
How to fish. Yeah, yeah. That is precisely that one. So
Pretty
that
much.
is at the heart of the technical coaching, and that's what I've seen works. Like you have this persistent culture of technical coaching. We are learning, and we are learning from each other, and we are applying what you have learned in my team, and you are applying what I have learned in my team in your team, and we are exchanging the information, and that we are gradually aligning towards a common knowledge base. And
Hmm.
and that's when you really get towards the sustainable architecture, because you are able to push the organization to another level of knowledge, and that takes time. That is an
Right.
ongoing process. Yeah.
Right. So now, from a perspective of an architect, because we do know that a large number of architects are basically perceived as those people on the ivory tower, sitting there making all the decisions and annoying the hell out of all the teams underneath. And oh, they're just so out of context, they don't understand what even we do and build here, and they just tell us how to do things. What would that mean to do that coaching from that perspective? Is how would that how would that interaction between an architect or architects, a group of architects, and the dev teams change if we have, let's say, that let's take Mark Richards and Neil Ford's approach that
Yeah.
architecture is a spectrum,
Right.
right? So it's a spectrum between design and architecture. Is a spectrum between tactical and strategic decisions. Is a
Right.
spectrum between low effort, high effort.
Right.
Uh, where do we put sort of a boundary where we should be making those decisions and we
Mm,
should turn them into coaching those teams on technical excellence so that they are enabled to make those
mm,
decisions?
mm. Yeah, that's a great question, and you really need to get kind of have a feel for it to understand what is the right thing to do, or in the context of where you are, what is achievable. So now you mentioned this strategic versus tactical. Now, tactical
Hmm.
decisions are, at least in how I perceive it, easier to deal with locally. Strategic decisions are something else. On the other hand, strategics are most likely to be high effort than low effort. So
Usually.
yeah, so that's a dilemma. Now, we can you can have a group of people, call it a group of architects or CTO or somebody that make a
Called
strategic,
an argument.
yeah. So that make decision on strategic level that we are going to go to we are going from on-prem to cloud this way, and that has all sorts of ramifications.
Yeah.
Now, that is easy to put in writing. We are going to do this way, but the effort involved is rather high, and
Yes.
so that is what this coaching part is really important. On the other hand, is to explain why is this important, given all the legacy systems you are maintaining, and the other hand is how to get there, and that is up to the teams themselves. That is with this. Okay, how
Mm.
can we actually we are having this code in front of me. It's rather difficult to work with. I have all sorts of challenges. Now you're telling me I'm going to do have Azure function of it. Sorry, this is not what I can do tomorrow or any other day. So you need to
No,
this,
that
yeah,
that's
gradual.
basically a redesign.
Yeah, that's a redesign. Yes, that's right. That's the redesign. You're asking too much. So you need this awareness to how, why is this important? Is this something from the business or market itself? We need the software as a service in order to survive, because every other competitor is having that. We don't. The cost of operations are very high. We believe it will be lower on the cloud. I'm not sure, but there is some hypothesis there, so that people can gradually buy into it. So what I've seen work is that the best architects I've worked with have always been part of the team. They had an architect role or a coaching role or a advisory role in organizations. They've been involved in some decision making or meetings on strategic level, but they have always been the part of the team. So they always had this feedback that what is reality. I mean, I can go to a meeting and present a new shiny diagram. This is very good. But then I go back to my team and I understand what is possible given the code I work with. So those people are the best architects I've ever worked with. And actually, I've seen rather few. Whenever we try to take somebody very good out of the team and put them in this other role that is on distance from the code, uh, I haven't seen good results. So usually they got back to the team because they were not able to achieve much. So you have this dilemma: high effort, low effort, strategic, tactical. So when you have high effort and strategic, then you need all these common forces. You need coaching combined with strategic vision. So getting
Mm.
people on board, and that takes time. You need to accept it will take time. And if you are a competitive situation, it will take time, of course. Or you do need some radical stuff to get there. So yeah. So um, whenever I try to isolate myself or do architecture without being in touch with the real product, real code, um, I kind of regretted it every time. Just need to go back to what people actually do and interact with
I
the real work being done.
I think, and this is an educated guess based on conversations I had, but because I haven't read the book yet, it's on my list. But I think this is very much in line with the
Yeah.
software architect elevator by Gregor Hopp.
Oh, it's
It
a
is
great,
basically,
great.
yeah, it basically the statement there that you need to ride that elevator up and down. So as an architect, you need to wear many hats and speak many languages. Of course, if you do DDD, that's easier, but basically speak the languages of CEOs and then speak the language of the dev team so
Yes,
that you can actually comprehend and convey the message across
yes,
the levels.
yes.
Because if you're stuck on one level,
Mm,
you're basically useless as an architect.
yeah,
You're not going to provide value, you're just going to provide and promote confusion instead.
yeah.
And,
Mm,
and that's going to be a problem
mm.
sooner or later, and we're going to dive straight into the chaotic context of Kinefin,
Yes,
which
yes.
is not fun at all.
No, not fun.
Uh,
Yeah.
so, so that technical excellence and that coaching excellence then is basically that flexibility of an architect to be able to chat with everybody, not just convey commands down the stream,
Mm.
but actually go down the stream and see what's up.
And that's what you really. That's what, especially in the modern age, whatever happens around us, it's where architects really can bring value. Is that you have somebody that's comfortable speaking different languages and explaining why there is this strategic movement and why the technical realities are what they are. Now, and
Hmm.
you can remind the CEO, you remember, we took the decision 20 years ago. That was a good decision at the time. Now we're here, you want me to move to cloud or whatever, you use AI. I can't do it as easily. And then you have to go other way around. So that's a really value of somebody calling themselves an architect, that you can go up and down and right and left and communicate and translate and understand. And I guess people really appreciate it because you ever been in all these big meetings in enterprises, when they gather together several hundred people in one room and they explain the new stuff. I mean, how many people actually go out and feel they've learned something really useful from themselves? There more questions than answers. So that's why you need architectural to go around and try to bridge the gap, communication gap. So that is really, if reading the Gregor Hoppes book is a great place to start. So to understand, you can drop your tools. You can just forget whatever tools are you using. Maybe they are not important. The communication is important. So communicate whatever tools you can have, just to get this message across. And of course, challenge is part of the communication.
You basically need a completely different tool set, because you don't need technical tools, you need communication tools.
Yeah.
And that's a completely different game that we're playing then. And what I find is that quite often, because the majority of architects actually come from development, there are also architects coming from business, there are also architects coming from sales perspectives. That's perfectly fine. But the majority of architects actually come from dev, which then means that they have robust knowledge of technologies and technical aspects. But since they never worked on a level of business or sales, most architects will lack communication skills. Only and either they have to learn those skills, or they have them naturally, which makes them now more successful and make it easier on the aspects of being an architect. But it all depends on how quickly they recognize that these communication skills are actually the skills that are heavily required for everything that they do, including coaching for technical excellence and modeling excellence, right? Because if you're modeling but you're not able to communicate the models, what's the value of those models?
What's the value of the model? Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, you need this. You need this ability to perceive that what you are communicating right now does not get to my whoever I'm communicating with. I don't get my message across. I need to change the way I convey this message. I need another model. Okay, you don't get this, throw it away. Let's do something else. And that's what I liked about the way during design. The community can never seem to settle on one way. I mean, event storming is a hugely popular, but all sorts of other techniques are coming as we speak, because it's not possible to use one way to model all the time. It's always you need to understand what is appropriate in the circumstances you are in. Who are you talking to? So you have pure business people that always worked on the business side. They are kind of, we'll call them field specialists or subject matter experts. And they just assume that technology, they work with technologies through the user interface, right? So I click on something and I see something. That is my why doesn't it work? You just fix it. So you need a very pure way to articulate the model of the system with that audience. Then you have business analysts, which I believe they are more adaptable to some structural conversation around boundaries and components and product architecture. And then you have CEOs or CTOs or whatever who are more into the consequences of monetary decisions, what investment, what they get on this investment. So now we are quite, you mentioned the spectrum of the architect. Now that's quite a spectrum. So you need to understand both money and the business rules and the technology and the history and the organization and soft skills. So it is rather challenging, but this is usually the missing link. in the organizations. You lack people with this sort of, what you call it, spectrum. Most
Right.
of us stop at one point, and
I find I find myself that quite often it's not even about being able to navigate that spectrum of topics. It's also that as an architect, you need to go in and be a specialist on that part of the spectrum. For example, I've seen many times on projects that an architect actually becomes a business analyst
right,
because there is no business
there
analyst.
is no
So
business side.
somebody needs to drive that
Yeah.
perspective of a business process and modeling that business process out so
Yes.
that we can actually align.
Mm.
The other way around, I've seen business analysts going into the role of an architect because there was no architect and
Okay.
doing facilitating for actual proper architecture
Yeah.
based on the business processes, which is to an extent slightly easier than the other way around.
Mm. Right.
But then again, the lack of understanding of technology and the technological constraints
Mm.
that come after architecture,
Mm.
because the modeling an architecture, designing an architecture, boxes and lines, that's all great, but you need to contextualize that later to technology. And if you have an architect, that contextualization to the
Mm.
stack that we're having in the company or the stack that is
Yes.
available
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
on the market,
Mm.
it's a fairly simple exercise.
Mm.
Unless you have somebody who's really devoted to one stack, then we have a bit of a
Yeah.
narrow tunnel
Yeah.
vision.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, but if you're a business analyst in the shoes of an architect, that translation, that contextualization of architecture into a tech stack might be actually that problematic part.
It could
That
be.
would be, on the other hand, the architect's problematic part of what the business analyst does by contextualizing whatever business jargon is flying around into actual processes.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. That's a quite probable challenge, and I like the example that um, you deal with what you have, and you might ask people to concern themselves with architecture even though they are not architects, and more importantly perhaps is to ask technologists to concern themselves with the business processes, to understand the business the end users need, who are the end users, and to model them so they would be able to create a good boundaries on the code level that align with those uh, business processes, and yeah. So you need to deal with it, and you can of course hire somebody, but perhaps it's better to ask people who are in the organization with the history, knowledge of history, that can you get a little bit out of your role and do a little bit of something else because we need it. And I've been there myself. So what you describe is highly realistic. You don't have a choice. Somebody needs to model this. Okay, well, here we are. There are six of us. Somebody has to put their hand up, and and then of course you learn. You learn tremendous amount. That is kind of most rewarding part of being out of not doing the same thing all over again. So mm,
Now, Mufrit, we were supposed to advocate also for, apart from technical excellence, we were supposed to advocate today also a little bit for modeling excellence.
mm,
Now, I'm gonna probably puzzle you a little bit
okay,
with one statement. So, if we have the very nice old statement from
yeah,
George E.P. Box,
mm,
all models are wrong, but some of them are useful, which is the but some are useful is an addition that is added, expanded later.
okay.
Uh,
Didn't know
right
that.
now, uh, if this is the statement and we come from a business perspective, okay, all models are wrong, so why the hell would we even be modeling,
All right.
right? So I know the value of modeling. So basically, you wouldn't have to advocate modeling to me. But let's assume that I'm somebody from the business. I want things done. I'm thinking tactical. I'm thinking
delivery.
make things happen, deliver me code that works.
Yeah.
But as already stated from this book, that basically means that we're not in the problem space, we're in the solution
Yeah.
space, which means
You're
that we're
jumping
not
right in.
understanding the problem.
Mm.
So if all models are wrong and I'm thinking tactical, how would you then advocate for modeling excellence?
Mm. Well, my take on it is I start my domain-driven design courses usually with that one is you don't have a choice. We are all doing modeling.
Oh,
Whenever you're doing some kind of digital product, you don't have a choice. You have to model because you can't put reality into your IT application or system. It's impossible. Now imagine in healthcare, you having a doctor having a consultation with the patient in a room. So you can't put your doctor and the patient and their disease history into your IT system. You need to model what is the doctor's perspective, what is the patient perspective, and so on. So whatever you do, you are going to create a model of it, and the model will exist in the code, in the data, in the UI level. Everything is a model. Now it's up to you then, given that is what, as I see it, you don't have a choice. You always do modeling. It's up to you how explicit your models are. So and then you get this what you kind of your challenge is that you have a stakeholder which is very tactical. I know what I want. Deliver this. And that is where the clue is, and when the statement from George Box comes into play. You have a mental model in your mind of what you want and how things work. I need to understand that mental model to be able, because I'm going to model it in my code, regardless what you say. So the best choice is to me to align that model in the system with your mental model as closely as possible. That is why I need to understand what do you mean I know what I want. I need to understand your mental model as a stakeholder.
mm,
And that is my take on modeling. Because if we understand each other, I would be able to produce a solution that allows you to that is more naturally aligned with the business process you are doing, instead of fighting against. And we've all seen those systems, right, that actually fight against the business processes. The business needs to adapt to the system, not the other way around. And that's where this gap
plenty of those.
exists. Yeah, that's where the gap exists, because we don't pay enough attention to the model itself. We just go on and do something implicitly.
But then the question arises: what if the stakeholder that has that mental model
mm,
and tells you to be tactical and deliver, is not actually an SME and has very limited understanding of what the actual business process is?
well,
How do you advocate for modeling excellence in that case?
yeah, well, that's a challenge. That's a really a real challenge that exists many places. In a domain-driven design, in the Blue Book, Eric Evans introduced this role of domain expert. That's the first time I read the term concept of domain expert. What is this? So that's somebody that works closely with a team that is modeling collaboratively, in this book, collaboratively modeling the system from the perspective of the business, and then you have technologists that modeling from the perspective of the system itself. Now, what you explain is a situation where we think we have a domain expert available, but we don't. we have somebody with
Yeah.
that maybe is involved to some degree with what the company is actually trying, what market the company is in, but not fully. And I've been in those
Hmm.
situations. What happens is you create a model, either due to tactical push, what you're describing, because you need to deliver something, or you do whatever, you really do your homework, you try to model something, but because you lack domain experts access, your models will be not as optimal as they could have been, given that you if you had access to the real domain experts. And that
Mm.
situation is kind of funny, but I've been there, is that you realize perhaps years after that your model was, uh, um, you could call it wrong, or it was very far away from what the business actually needed, or what the real needs of the end users and stakeholders were. And it could take years to get there. And it's a kind of great revelation moment. Oh, now I understand it. It's yes, this is it. I should have, but then you look at the code, and I have no chance to fix it right now. It's just impossible at this point in time. So and that happens, and I guess it's perhaps is more common than not to have, you believe you have a domain knowledge in the team, close to the team, but for some reason the knowledge is somewhere else. So, and that's experience, because next time, next project, you will perceive the situation sooner, and I will raise the warning. Sorry, we need somebody else. You're fine. You can do the job of business analyst or whatever, but we need somebody else. Somebody that is in the field right now doing the job. We need somebody from the field.
Right.
Put them, at least give me 3 hours with that person today. I don't need continuous access. I need just a communication channel. So that is a painful at point when you realize that you haven't modeled it as optimally as you could, but the next time, due to this experience, you're in better position. So that's why the focus on modeling is important, and it gives you practice to on your next customer will be better positioned than your previous customer. Unfortunately, or
Uh,
that's the way it is.
I, I I always take it. It's like I just recently heard a great example of the aspects of modeling that you need to really figure out who are the right SMEs for the
Yeah.
modeling, because uh, you had you're running let's say an event storming with all the smart people in the room, but turns out that your domain expert is actually a secretary because she's been writing the reports all the time,
Yes.
right? And she knows all about the process, not those smart cookies in the room that are CEOs or whoever or directors, because they just read those reports. They have no idea how they
How
are
to put the
created,
reports? Yeah.
all right? And on that, I personally I tend to explain to people that models are very useful if they're captured right, but basically they're inherently wrong because that's the nature of our brains.
That's how it is.
Uh, from human nature, from our neurobiology, our brains are not wired to be able to comprehend reality to the fullest.
Yes,
We're
that's right.
wired to oversimplify reality to be able to cope with it and
Yes.
only extend the models
Mm,
in details, in
mm,
explicitness, in the areas that we actually need them to be extended. So
mm,
our expertise,
mm,
which basically is applicable for any area in life, not only business, not
mm.
IT or anything else, because basically we do that for everything. So basically, in that sense, we're ignorant pretty much all the time
All
in
the time.
specific
Yeah.
areas because our models are very poor of
Yeah.
those specific areas.
Mm. Mm.
Now, unless you're autistic like I am,
Okay.
probably most of your models are very simplistic,
Yeah.
unless you're an expert in a specific discipline.
That's right.
My models I tend to keep my models a little bit more extensive because that's the way my brain works because of autism that I need to learn about these things.
Okay. Yeah.
But again, I recognize that I'm, for example, at that sense, for example, completely ignorant of emotional intelligence and aspects of uh, actual communication skills at times.
Mm.
Well, not that much anymore because I have my lovely wife who's an ADHD coach, and she helps me build communication skills.
Mm.
That's been a large improvement over the last few years.
Mm.
But still, the level of ignorance in that aspect is huge because my brain is wired different. But
Mm.
then again, other mental models are really great,
Mm.
and confronted with these kind of examples, this opens, oh yeah, people actually think differently. People actually have different
That's right.
dictionaries. People actually different
Yes.
understand processes differently, and
Yes.
we're making all of those crazy assumptions that people think actually the same and have exactly the same mental model.
Mm. Yeah.
And I
That's
think just that
really difficult.
recognition,
Yeah. Yes. To
yeah, that
assume
just
that people
having that
have the same model.
recognition,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that only that recognition that we don't have the same mental
We don't.
model already opens up a conversation.
Yes.
The question is, are people able to recognize that?
Yeah. 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 Oh, that is talking about architects is something that really now traditionally the architect presents a model usually with some tool of a choice that is made for architecture, and it
Mhm.
kind of this is how the system looks like. So who are you actually talking to? Who is actually able to comprehend, to understand the model you have presented? So this, what you're
Mhm.
suggesting is that you start with that we all have different ways to understand or to different perspectives on the problem we are working with, and we probably need different angles and different ways
and
to visualize and present. That is the way to start. So then you can.
right,
That is the yeah. And
and then we're
then
coming back to this lovely book where Jackie devotes a significant chunk of it to talking about the right level of abstraction, so to actually polish your language towards a specific audience with
yes,
the right level of abstraction so that that
yeah,
audience can comprehend what you're actually talking about. Because if
yes,
I
yes.
start talking about a data model
Mm,
or a physical model of objects to CEOs,
mm,
unless they were techies back in the day, they will definitely not understand what the hell I'm talking about
mm,
if I'm going to try to represent that as relational objects like in a relational database,
mm,
right?
mm. Yeah.
It's a choose the right level of abstraction for the
Oh,
right stakeholders, and basically by that we're back to the architect's elevator.
yeah, yeah. That's what I'm going to say. Yeah. You're right into you're riding the elevator. Just by understanding that you need to convey your abstractions differently according to the audience, and that's an essential skill. How to because the code is model itself, and that's the only model um, that is the most important model we have. As long as you're building anything digital of a kind, the end outcome will be what the code produces, the behavior that you see from the code. This is what you
Yeah,
get. And
because the code is an actual physical manifestation of the model.
yeah, yeah, that is the ultimate model. It is in the code. So And the role of what we call an architectural or technical coach or whoever is to be as explicit as possible, as explicit as possible with developers, or being developer yourself, to actually, that is the most rewarding situation, where at one hand you are talking with the business and modeling a business process of their level abstractions, while next day you're actually coding it. So and I believe I've been in some teams that are high performant teams, and we were always very close to this situation. We did the collaborative modeling with the end users, actually using doing the work, the business, the work themselves, and we were the same people actually coding the solution, implementing the modeling code. However, I also heard of the situations where developers became domain experts themselves. Now, there was one story, I can't recall who talked. Maybe it was Gojko Ajic, the creator of impact mapping, and I'm not sure. Maybe I'm miscrediting something. I like Gojko a lot, anyway. But the story was that a couple of people, there were a team was assigned with doing creating a software for trading the what do you call it? Now the brain stops. In the stock market, yeah, trading
Right.
software for the stock market. And in order to create the trading software algorithms, they were taught. The team were taught to become traders themselves. So at some point,
Ah,
the developers became traders. They could do the actual trading, and then that team produced fabulous software, because
right.
the communication gap came to close to zero, because they knew themselves what the needs are, because they were in the business. Now, it's not always possible. You can't get in healthcare or get a medical degree to create, but you
But
can
but
reduce the.
for most businesses, that's very feasible. For a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
businesses,
So just a couple of
just looking for.
weeks ago, I had a friend who he's still doing. Was I mentioned that I was in the labor union project, and he's still there. No, he's actually on the customer service side, and doing a customer service alongside an expert, but he's actually there and feeling the pain of the people calling customer service, and understanding what they need, instead of assuming customer service needs this and this and this. No, you are there. Now you understand. So that is the best situation to be in, right? Demanding, but that this communication gap cuts to, because you understand what to code. So and that's what you see. Most businesses, it's possible if you just do the effort and
Mm,
take the step to put yourself in the business situation, and that's
I
when
I recall very few situations where this actually happened, but I do recall, for example, visiting the call center for T-Mobile and looking into how call centers operate. Uh, Even though I was not even responsible for building anything with a front end, but just from a communication perspective and understanding what scope of data flows through a call center and what kind of data they might need to
Mm,
facilitate their work, that was already a enriching experience.
yes.
And then we visited the central warehouse to actually see how packages for clients are being composed
Mm,
throughout the life
mm,
cycle of packaging,
mm,
including the print of invoices or contracts, which were
mm,
printed exactly in the same place alongside with the package being completed. which basically meant, oh, there is a process to that. There are steps to that,
Mm.
and then we could translate that to actual sequences in software, and especially in integration flows, because now we actually understood why certain things in an integration flow had to happen in specific sequences, so that we could eliminate race conditions
Yeah, right, right. Oh,
between those sequences, right?
yes, you simplify to the level of what is actually needed. Race conditions is a great example, right? Because you can run into
Oh
it if
yeah,
you understand what is actually possible to go into parallel or what not. So yeah, that's seen many times. You get all those sorts of technical problems that problems should not exist in the first place, but you don't do the effort. So you pay back in terms of technical complexity if you don't. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
and most technical problems are not technical problems, are organizational problems that
Mm,
just trickle down to the technicalities of things and
mm.
implementation. For example, by making too many domain assumptions,
Yes.
problem domain assumptions. And this is why that modeling part is so important, at least from my perspective, to eliminate those assumptions as much as possible.
Yes. Yes.
Because
Yes.
if we're working on assumptions, there is the more assumptions we have, the higher the risk is that we will not deliver something of business value.
Yes. Mm. Yeah.
Pretty much, that's pretty much
You,
the
you
consequence.
assume too much. That's what they say, right? And then the,
Yeah,
the interesting part is that and almost any project I've been on, the domain experts or subject matter experts, as you call it, is they actually when they talk to you, they assume you're listening and you're understanding unless you ask very specific questions. So this ability to listen, number one, listen, really listen, being comfortable what you said, being remaining in the problem space as long as possible, listening and asking what you might call naive questions, but you actually have a credit as I get into new domain. I have a credit to ask very naive questions. Nobody expects anything from me. And if I don't ask questions, I usually people assume, okay, now I've told you, you listen to me, I believe you understand, I go do something else, I expect something from you then. So you need really this you seize the chance and ask the questions to really get to the what are you talking about, because this implicit understanding what you it leads to these assumptions. I believe I understood it,
yeah.
but I didn't.
So,
More.
from perspective of modeling this would be, well, probably a few things. First of all, the five whys,
Yeah,
to understand the motivation for a certain
yeah, yeah,
behavior, a certain process.
yeah,
Why are we doing this way? Why is it happening this way?
yeah,
Uh, then I recall something I learned from Woody Zool some time ago, and we discussed that over the stream with problem signals and
mm,
basically solving patching up problems rather than identifying them. Is one of the techniques would be, uh, I cannot recall the book really. I would have to look it up, but I think that the title was The Promise, and the core aspect is, I promise not to interrupt. So the only question you're allowed to ask during such a domain discovery is, what more is there to say about this?
okay, so after.
Because any other question in that sense during that discovery is shaping the conversation and is leading on an answer. Because if you express curiosity about a specific aspect, then you'll learn about that specific aspect, not about what else is there. What
Mhm,
is the scope
mhm.
of this actual process, right? So the promise of not interrupting by actually listening, by asking what more is there to say, rather than leading onto a topic, because we're influencing the conversation if we're asking specific questions. And then, of course, modeling it out, for example, with a BPMN or event storming. And then you have the space to ask those specific questions, because then you want that detail landing
Right.
in.
I love that one. And I can I've done it myself a couple of, not just couple of times. You believe start to understand what they are saying to you, and you interrupt with a possibly a good questions, but you actually might bypass the what else is there and stop at the detail that is important, but you're missing on the whole context because you're not allowing them to finish the story. And
Yeah.
that kind of requires discipline, right? You need to, okay, I will let you finish the story, and then what else is there, and then I go back to the details, because you really need to the big picture, and that's yeah.
uh, Woody Zul and Chris Pepito, they run a workshop, an exploratory workshop on that
Okay.
area some time ago, and we've been divided into teams, and we were exactly tasked with the promise, so not to interrupt.
Right.
The results were hilarious, because people subconsciously, they want to steer the conversation, they want to be curious about things, and they
Right.
want to ask questions. So it really requires discipline and training to be able to withhold the questions till that person says that there is nothing more to say.
Right. You hold
Because
position. Yeah.
what the technique says is like, you ask what more is there to say, and you make notes, and then you can come back to a specific aspect because you already made those notes and reported on that.
Yes.
But until that person says, okay, there is nothing more to say about this,
Mm.
you shouldn't be asking those clarifications.
Mm.
uh, and that's difficult, especially if egos are flying and we're in the areas of
Oh.
assumptions.
Oh yeah.
Because then the statement that I heard over those exploratory workshops was, most people are not actively listening, they're reloading.
That's interesting.
Reloading in a sense that they're not listening to your answer, they're actually already building a defense case.
Comprehension. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's
Yes.
by default limited comprehension.
Yes. 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 You're definitely into it, and I believe Daniel Kahneman wrote about it, and yeah, that's really something to be aware of. That you're actually building uh, a model in your head that might be totally off the track, but and you are applying it. I think he called it what you see is all there is, something like that. What you see is all there is. What you get is all there is, because you like to
Mm.
frame what you see at the moment and make it apply to what you understand and what you know for sure. You don't go you don't go into the territory what you called about what else. Maybe we need to study more this art of lost art of listening. Maybe I guess there are some.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
believe that this thing that you mentioned comes from thinking fast and slow.
Yeah. Daniel Kahneman, thinking
Is
fast.
that
That
all
is the
right?
book.
I'll also drop it in for the sake of conversation, so that people can refer to that, because I think I already had some exposure to these concepts there,
Mm.
but and basically that was something of a lot of value in that sense.
Oh,
And that's not
yeah.
something very new.
No,
That's
it's not.
actually
No, it's
quite
not.
an old book.
Yeah, it's a very long book, and but once you get the hold of it, you really like it. There is some critique on the book and some by Kahneman himself. He admitted that he put something that was not should not have been put there, but there is some really deep stuff about how our brains work. That yeah, you get it's really easy to get fooled, and
Hmm.
he mentioned something like along the lines that you are actually not. Uh, you avoid to listen. You avoid to go very deep. You stop very soon and start to build something in your head that applies to what
Reloading.
reloading. Yeah, a great term. So yeah,
Yeah. And I see but what Google just showed me, the portfolio of books is actually quite interesting, stemming back to uh, well, early 2000s. I believe that that would be probably a good read with Rebecca Witzbrock,
yeah.
Heuristics and Biases, the psychology of, now let me see this, intuitive judgment.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
right. So I think that's all in there in those, because heuristics and biases are basically our mental models about
Yeah,
things. So I think that in general is a, I would say that this is a large aspect of that modeling excellence, that
oh yeah,
we identify those heuristics and biases
oh yeah,
as early on, and actually be able to go into that conversation with an open mind,
oh
and not constantly reloading, but
yeah,
actually listening.
yeah. Oh, that applies to all of us. I mean, even the most
Yeah,
experienced among us, they go into the trap right away if they are not aware of it. So I believe I have answers to all your questions. No, I don't. I need to listen first.
we
So
we are all ignorant, and if there is ignorance, that means that we have our simplified models,
yeah, we do. So yeah,
and that's the beauty of, I think, of the human nature, that
yeah,
while we can be very right about things, we can be
yeah,
also very wrong about
yeah,
things, because we just oversimplify
yeah.
them.
Let's accept it at least, and that's the first step. So yeah. Oh, that's really great.
uh,
I try to remember this term reloading. I haven't heard it before, but it makes sense. We are reloading. We're not
it
listening.
does, doesn't it? Right?
Oh, it
It's
does.
a really good one in that sense.
Yeah.
All right, Mufrit, it's been a blast. I think at this time, this is where we can close the conversation. We haven't really touched upon scaling all of this with organizations, but we can
No,
always come back to that
we always come back to
a
that.
little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit we hinted here and there, but we can literally come back to that another time. Before we go go offline, we have a next stream in 2 weeks. We're dealing with the blast radius, so we're going to be talking about impact analysis. And now, I'm very sorry, this is a French name. I'm going to butcher the hell out of it. Frédéric Meunier. Frédéric is easy, but the last name, I'm sorry, dear. Forgive me. I will try to practice before the 8th. So that's coming the 8th of April, impact analysis. And we're going to be talking about how to look into it so that we don't make mistakes and don't cause production incidents and overall failures. And of course, if you manage to hang out with us during the live stream till this moment, go to Bridging the Gap, see what other events we're doing, because we're doing quite a bit. You can also go and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done that so far. So go ahead and subscribe. You'll be notified about other live streams coming up. And then me and Philip Costera, we're actually running a very interesting class on designing interoperability and interactions between systems, and we call it the strategic integration design with domain-driven design. And it's currently run at DDD Academy. The next instance of this course is coming up soon because that's the 20th of April. That said, that's enough of shameless advertisements. Mufrit, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for the conversation. It was absolutely lovely to have you. Probably
Thank
we'll come back to that scaling aspect in another stream. I think that's still going to be quite a broad topic,
Oh yeah,
anyways.
it is. It is. Thank you for inviting me.
And
I'm really honored. It was great experience. Really enjoyed it.
you're welcome. And for all of you still with us or watching the recording, well, see you in the next episode. Good night, everybody.
Everybody, bye.